quite have a quorum, but that does not disallow us to move forward with our amended agenda. And so we'll begin today's meeting, as we begin all of our meetings, with a word of invocation being offered to us by Chaplain Leslie Walker, who is joining us by Zoom. Chaplain Walker.
Good afternoon, Board of Commissioners. We appreciate the invitation to do the invocation. Let's pray. Father, in Jesus' name, we thank you now for your goodness, mercy, and your grace. This is the day that you have made, and we shall rejoice and be glad in it. Now, Holy Spirit, we give you charge. Take charge of this meeting. Father, give us a spirit to agree without being disagreeable. Give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to conduct the business of this great commission. And certainly we give you praise. If there be any ill among us, heal us, touch us body with your sweet anointing. Now, Father, we say thank you, and we give you praise in Jesus' name. Thank God. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so very much for that invocation. Now I'll have Acting Secretary Brown to provide us with the Secretary's report and incoming communications.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Chair. There's currently two incoming correspondence: the OCI Weekly Inventory Report and the DPOA grievance regarding OCI investigations.
And go right ahead with your announcements, Mr. Brown.
Yeah. The next BOPC meeting is Thursday, June 6, 2024 at 3 p.m. The location be here at Detroit Public Safety Headquarters. The next BOPC community meeting will be Thursday, June 13th at 6:30 p.m. with the 7th Precinct hosting at Detroit Edison Public School Academy Auditorium. That address is 1903 Wickham Street, 48207. The monthly committee meetings for the month of June 2024, Personnel and Training Committee meets Tuesday, June 4th, 2024 at 4 p.m. Policy Committee meeting meets Tuesday, June 11th at 5 p.m. Citizen Complaint Committee meeting meets Tuesday, June 18th at 5 p.m. And the Policy Committee meeting again June 25th at 5 p.m. And Mr. Chair, all those take place at Detroit Public Safety Headquarters, and you can also view them on Zoom.
Okay, thank you so very much. Noting that we've now exhausted our amended agenda and are yet one member short of a quorum, I know that Commissioner Burton is somewhere near. But for the sake of time and efficiency, we'll move ahead with public comment.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. We have two speakers, Ms. Sharnita Williams, Ms. Rella Landfair, and Minister Eric Blunt. Okay.
All right, Ms. Williams.
I'm on my way.
Yep, no problem. We have time.
Do we really? I need more than 2 minutes for this.
Unfortunately, you have 2 minutes.
Oh, I know. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Let's go back to 9/20/22. A UPS truck was robbed. So that was the 12th precinct. I stayed in the 12th precinct. So Detective Douglas and the Detective Williams came to my house because I had 7 cameras around my home. And they wanted the footage. And this is the same detective who falsified reports, who went to the prosecutor office to get a search warrant. But the judge wasn't even on the bench at that time, Adam Sabri. So the sheriff came into my house without a search warrant, removed my weapons illegally, came back into my home with my house keys. But we're going to talk about the pattern of the illegalness of police officers. So falsifying reports. My 9mm was taken from me. It's a procedure you are supposed to do. I was supposed to receive a 5-digit code. I never received that. Never received my 9mm. They want to always talk about mental illness. See, but the thing about it, I'm too focused. I'm fully aware of all this illegal corruption in the city of Detroit concerning the Detroit Police Department officers. The 3rd Precinct have over 30 criminal reports, and they label it general. No, and this woman who has something to do with it's the same woman I've been complaining about for over 3 years and 6 months, Nikita Wilson. Now, what's the odds of her being in the same shelter where I'm at today? All this security, who's paying taxpayer? Taxpayers paying for security, helicopters? undercover officers in this facility? They say don't nobody know what's going on, but that's a lie. Last week when I was here, I seen a woman sitting over there with the chief white with the long braids. She was on Iris Street in a black Lincoln months ago. She was right over here. So my thing is, why are you guys so concerned about what I'm doing if you are not doing anything illegally? If your house is not in order, like I said, everything that I'm saying, they only need 3 things to prove is RICO, because I'm tired of the city of Detroit and all this corruption, period, and especially dealing with my rape and trying to conceal that. Everybody seems like they working with each other, all the city workers from the top to the bottom. And it's not acceptable. I want every last one of you all to be held accountable. And if you get locked up, when I see y'all, I want to see y'all coming out in the box, because I'm suing everybody in this city.
DC Hayes, it has been stated in the past that there were undercover officers. I think it's the Genesis 2 house. And it was stated that there are no undercover officers at women's shelters. But I am interested to know whether or not there may be usage of the secondary employment program, where there might be officers who are being paid after hours to work security. Do we know if that might be happening at Genesis House?
Chair, I will check that and find out. And, sorry, Chair Presley, I will find that out and report back to this body.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go right ahead.
on her note too, Deputy Chief Hayes, can you please advise not only the young lady that just spoke, but also our audience, how people get their guns back? If she says her 9mm was taken, when it's taken, do you guys keep a record? Can you explain that process, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you. Once a firearm has been, I'm sorry, through the chair, once a firearm has been deemed to have evidentiary value, it is then seized and placed on evidence. There are a number of reasons as to why a firearm may not have been turned back. The judge could have ordered it permanently seized and ultimately confiscated or destroyed. The firearm may still have an evidentiary value in an ongoing case, as we know that there's been a backlog as it relates to cases being heard and adjudicated in the courts. While they're certainly working through that, there are still some outstanding matters. And then there could have been some other issues that have come up. Our citizen who ma'am, who just had spoken, mentioned a mental health nexus. Sometimes if throughout an investigation there's determined that a firearm may have been possessed with someone, and I'm certainly not saying this is the case, but this is just an example, if someone may have mental health issues, they may not, although at the time they may have acquired the firearm within the provisions to lawfully purchase one, mental health issues could have arisen during that time in which they are no longer fit, either being deemed by the law or certainly by a court, and there are areas where we may not, through our legal responsibility, may not be able to turn a firearm back over. So there are several different reasons as to if they would still be in our possession as it relates to when they are to be turned over. Once they have no longer have an evidentiary value, the officer in charge of the case will then notify the owner of the firearm, at which point they will come here to Detroit Public Safety Headquarters, down to our property division, in which they will be signed and the property will be released back to the rightful owner, whether it be a firearm or any other property that has been deemed no longer having an evidentiary value.
So you send the notice to their previous residents or their residents?
We should have, again, through the chair, so we will make contact with them. That may be a written letter, that may be a phone call. So there are a couple different ways to get that communication out to them.
Okay, because she's saying that her gun was taken. There was no crime, as I don't think.
Correct, Ms. Bernard. I was not
But
charged with anything, Ms. Bernard.
All right, thank you, Ms.
Who should
Williams.
she contact? I mean, and who can she talk to in your office? And then that's the end of it.
I see Officer Tyus here. Officer Tyus, if you can get the information, and then we will speak with our Detective Bureau to find out exactly where we are in her specific case. Again, each case is different and unique in its own kind, so we will figure out where we are in the process. If her firearm is eligible to be returned to her, we will expeditiously do just that.
If with your permission, just when you take a firearm, do you automatically fire it and test it to see if it's been fired in any other case? I mean, if I had a firearm, and you took it, would you be testing it just automatically?
Through the chair, if a firearm does have evidentiary value, it will be going in the NIBIN system, and I believe that is the process that you're speaking of, yes.
So every gun that you get, you check it out?
Yes, ma'am.
See if it was, okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No problem. Okay, with that, we do indeed have a quorum, and so we'll move forward with our official agenda. And so, Mr. Brown, you can begin with introduction of commissioners.
Chairperson Presley,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Smith,
Present.
Commissioner Bernard,
Attorney Linda Bernard, present, District 2.
Commissioner Banks,
Present.
Commissioner Bell,
Present, District 4.
Commissioner Burton,
Present, District 5.
Commissioner Cardax for an excuse, Commissioner Moore, Commissioner Hernandez,
Present.
Commissioner Woods.
All right, with that, we do indeed have a quorum. Now we'll move on to the approval of the May 30th, 2024 agenda. Is there any objection to this agenda?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Burton?
I'd like to move that we give residents and those that are here today additional 60 seconds to speak added to their time.
Is there a second? Hearing no second, there is no motion. Let the record reflect that Commissioner Darrell Woods has joined us. Is there any further objection to this agenda? Hearing none, the agenda will be approved. The agenda is approved, rather. Next, we'll move on to the minutes for the May 23rd, 2024 meeting. Is there any objection to the approval of these minutes?
Substain. Substain.
Do you have an objection?
Yes.
Okay, your objection is?
Typo.
And where is the typo?
I don't. I did have some corrections there on my desk.
I know that last time this happened, I was accused of somehow not being diligent in your objection. But again, it has been advised to me by the parliamentarian that when it comes to the matter of the minutes, is there any objection that you have to notate where it actually is in the minutes. And so because you are unable to do so, the chair hears no objection. Are there any further objection to these minutes?
To the chair,
Commissioner Burton.
but I do not have to approve the minutes.
That is your right.
So I'm not going to approve.
Okay, so the chair entertains a motion to accept the minutes for May 23rd, 2024. It's been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those who oppose, no.
Oppose.
All right, the ayes have it. That motion passes. The minutes have been approved. And now we'll move on to the introduction of BOPC staff, chief of police, elected officials, and representatives, as well as community leaders by Acting Secretary Brown.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Currently, we have with us Attorney Stephanie LaBelle. She's on Zoom. Ms. Candace Hayes, Ms. Janya Underwood, Ms. Jasmine Taylor, Ms. Artemisia Joshua, ASL interpreters, Ms. Yakata, Ms. Joyce Washington, Senior Investigator Tiffany Stewart, Senior Investigator Gianna Coulter, DPD HR Director Katrina Portillo, Mr. Don Handyside is doing the court reporting, Sanders Bryant is doing the video, and Sergeant Alan Quinn is doing the audio. Sitting in for the chief is Deputy Chief Franklin Hayes. Elected officials and representatives are Ms. Marie Overhaul, State Representative Tyrone Carter's office, Ms. Fredia Butler, Community Relations President for the 2nd Precinct, Ms. LaDon Davis, Officer Councilman Fred Duhall III, former Commissioner William Davis, Lieutenant Mark Young, LSA President, and Mr. Ron Thomas, DPOA Vice President.
Thank you. And again, we're grateful for everyone's attendance at today's meeting. As I always say, I hope that it adds to our productivity. With that, now we move on to the Board of Police Commissioners Officers Report. And I just want to utilize this time to remind the public that if you look at the agenda under new business, we do have 3 closed sessions today. And so again, I apologize for that inconvenience ahead of time, as that will require for you to enter and exit a number of times towards the end of our meeting. But again, I thank you all for your cooperation. With that, we will now move on to the Chief of Police report, which will be offered to us by D.C. Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On behalf of Chief White, I would like to present with you report and keep you abreast of the matters that are trending within the police department. We'd like to start with our update on injured officers. Currently, we have one department member who is disabled and recovering at home due to an on-duty injury, and the circumstances were as follows. On May 25th, 2024, officers assigned to downtown services were driving a fully marked scout car when they were struck by another vehicle. One of the officers sustained multiple injuries, was conveyed to the hospital, and is now resting and recovering at home. So this officer is on the road to recovery with the ambitions of joining the department sooner than later, again, to serve the community and the residents here of the city of Detroit. As far as our crime statistics, our homicides, last year to date, we were at 101. This year, we are at 78 for a 23% reduction. For non-fatal shootings, this time last year, we had 290. This year, we are currently at 225 for a 22% reduction. For our robberies, this time last year, we had 558. This year, we are at 398 for a 29% reduction. And our carjackings, last year to date, we had 74. This year, we were at 31 for a 58% reduction. For our total Part 1 violent crimes, last year, we had, year to date, we had 4,914. This year, we are at 4,368 for an 11% reduction in Part 1 violent crime. As Chief talks about the 12-point strategy that we are utilizing to make our community safer, one of the areas of focus is drag racing and drifting. We've started a detail that commenced March 14th, and just to share a few of the stats as far as the work that's being done by the men and women assigned to this detail, we have investigated 471 persons, 98 of which were non-Detroit residents. We conducted 216 traffic stops, issued 109 citations, impounded 47 vehicles, recovered 4 stolen vehicles, made 41 felony arrests, recovered 27 illegally possessed firearms, we had 13 attempts of fleeing and eluding, and while traversing through the city and looking for these drag racing and drifters, one of the other areas that we were able to put focus on and see it are these pop-up block parties. And we were able to respond to 12 of those. As we have seen throughout the media, a trending issue where these large parties are amassed oftentimes with no security protocols, unregulated consumption of alcohol and other substances, and oftentimes fights break out and no security. And with that, we've seen violence at a number of these illegal block parties that have been set up. So in addition to the drag racing focus, our officers are also addressing these issues. And when we get calls for service or they stumble upon one, they are taking appropriate action. Mental health continues to be a crisis that the men and women of the Detroit Police Department are constantly called to provide services for, to get those the help that they need. Not the best fit, but we are the solution at this point, and we take that charge and continue daily to carry it out. Some of the responses that the calls that we receive are for mental nonviolent. Last year, year to date, we had 1,299. This year, we are at 1,445. Mental violent armed, last year 571. This year we are at 567. Mental violent not armed, last year we were at 2,284. This year we are at 2,261. Suicide in progress, last year we were at 564. This year we are at 636. Suicide threats, last year we were at 1,127. This year we were at 1,184. The grand total of these numbers compared to last year versus this year, last year we were at 5,845. This year we are at 6,093 for a total of 248 additional calls. Excuse me. This year we are up as far as responding to those calls with the mental health nexus. So we continue to work with our partners to address this issue, but it is prevalent and is not going anywhere. Excuse me. I want to talk about a couple significant incidents. One is the non-fatal shooting of an 8-year-old female that happened Saturday, May 25th at 2:10 a.m., where officers were dispatched to Children's Hospital to investigate the non-fatal shooting of an 8-year-old female. And when officers arrived at the scene, they spoke to the victim's mother, who stated that the victim's father were, they were playing in the front room of the home, and the suspect, who was armed, removed his weapon and accidentally shot the victim in her right calf. This suspect was not a CPL holder. The victim was conveyed, again, to Children's Hospital, where she is expected to make a full recovery from her injuries, but the officers from the 10th Precinct and the detectives investigated the matter and submitted a warrant to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office for review. The prosecutor's office signed a warrant on the suspect for the following charges: weapons, firearms, careless discharge causing injury or death, and felony firearms. The subject is currently waiting to be arraigned at 36th District Court. This morning, we had a double shooting, one fatal, and there was a 6-year-old male that was also shot. This occurred at 6:04 a.m. At the 15,000 block of Whitcomb near Tireman, and officers arrived on the scene and talked to witnesses who stated they heard shots being fired at the intersection of Tireman and Whitcomb. They checked the area and observed victims 1 and 2, one being the deceased. Victim 1 was suffering from the gunshot wound to the neck, and victim 2 also had a gunshot wound to the neck. The medics conveyed victim 2, who was the 6-year-old, or he is listed in critical condition. Victim 1 was found deceased on the scene. The relationship to the victims is unknown at this time, and the suspect, who was last seen running from the location, later turned himself into the 6th Precinct. The investigation is still being put together, but at this point, we do not believe the community is in danger, and the person who is believed to be responsible for this is in police custody. We had an officer-involved shooting, too, that I'd like to speak of now. The most recent was yesterday at 11:07 p.m., where officers were on patrol in Ferguson and West 7 Mile area when they observed a young man with a, they investigated this young man. While investigating, the suspect was observed armed with a handgun. As the officers exited the vehicle, the suspect began to run north on Ferguson. The officers pursued the suspect on foot and giving numerous commands to drop the weapon. Fearing for their safety, officers fired shots at the suspects as he continued to run south on Biltmore. The suspect eventually surrendered to officers, and it was later found out he was not a CPL holder, and the handgun was recovered. The suspect was arrested and then taken to a local hospital for a graze wound to the head. The suspect was then transported to the DDC, and the charges are forthcoming. There were no other injuries in this. That was the injuries sustained by the suspect, and there were no injuries to the officer. And the last shooting that I'd like to talk about is the fatal officer-involved shooting that happened Monday, May 27th at 4:03 p.m., where officers were dispatched to the 11,000 block of Beaconsfield to investigate a fatal shooting of a 16-year-old. Officers arrived on the scene and were informed by witnesses that the victim, a 16-year-old male, was inside the location and was just shot in the head by the suspect, his uncle, who was reportedly suffering from a diagnosed mental illness. Officers made entry into the location and observed the victim lying on the floor, suffering from a gunshot wound to the head, and an unknown female applying CPR. As the officers approached, the suspect came from a back room armed with an unknown handgun. The suspect and an officer exchanged gunfire, and the suspect was shot. Medic 13 arrived at the scene and pronounced the victim, who was the original call was for, and the suspect deceased on scene. No officers were injured. This is currently being investigated by the Homicide Task Force, and this investigation is ongoing as well. Just last on a positive notes, yesterday, May 29th, our homicide section held a luncheon for the families of victims to offer additional support of those in mourning who have been impacted by homicide in their family. Tomorrow, May 31st, we will be welcoming 34 new police recruits to the force. This graduation will take place 10:30 a.m. at Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church. And lastly, Captain Brian Bounzer of the 8th Precinct, District 1. He's retiring, and there will be a coffee and cake celebration here in this very room, the Skylar Room, tomorrow from 1 to 3 p.m., celebrating his 27 years of service as a Detroit police officer to the community and the citizens of the city of Detroit. Mr. Chair, my apologies for the lengthy report, but that does conclude it, and I will answer any questions that you may have, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Hernandez.
Great. Through the chair, two quick questions for you. One referring back to the officer that is currently critically injured, that had a vehicle who struck the scout car. What were the circumstances, if you can share, just beyond the accident that happened? I'm just curious if policy was followed, lights were on, et cetera. It's broad daylight, it's 2:27 p.m. So I'd like more of a thorough kind of unpacking of layers of that one.
Through the chair, Commissioner Hernandez, I do not have that information, but I can gather it and provide it exponentially to you.
Okay, then I have a second one, if you don't mind. Kids on ATVs.
Yes, sir.
I continue to see what most would assume to be underage kids on ATVs, and obviously, regardless of the age, there's a responsibility factor as to using those and how those are used and where those are used. I'm just wondering, similar to how we have ticketing in place for bystanders whenever there's drag racing, is there a similar approach that you might be able to share in regards to accountability of parents in this case? Because if they're down Michigan Avenue, Fort Street, wherever it might be, Warren, what are we doing to address and keep parents accountable when kids are essentially being kids irresponsibly?
Thank you for the question, and through the chair. Parental responsibility is also one of the pillars of Chief White's 12-point strategy. So in any case, you're speaking to ATVs, which again has somewhat become a nuisance. And we have a strategy to address that, both from utilizing our air support as well as the tips that we receive through Rewards TV. Not many members of the community know. They're just finding out there's actually a $250 reward if you provide information that leads to the seizure of an ATV. And it's unlimited. You can tell them as many as you want. We would love to get those off the street and operate it in a proper place. But in any accord where there's a youth that has committed a crime, we will hold the parents accountable, and parental responsibility is always triaged. And if there's an opportunity or an example where that was not done, we certainly take the appropriate action and hold the parent accountable. Thank you.
Commissioner Woods.
How you doing, Deputy Chief?
Good afternoon, sir.
Are we focused on making sure that the body cam or the footage be released on those officer-involved shootings?
Through the chair, yes, sir. Chief White, in his commitment to transparency, has within 45 days of an officer-involved shooting that will be released to the community.
Okay, and when would can you find out exactly when the board will be offered the opportunity to see those that film as well?
Thank you. Through the chair, yes, sir, I will, and get that back to the board.
Thank you. Commissioner Bernard.
Just quickly, you mentioned in one of the cases that you were speaking about that a kid had a gun and was running away and was being pursued by an officer. And you didn't say that the kid did not shoot at the officer, he was running away, and then the officer shot him. I just want to know why. He was retreating.
Thank you. Through the chair, that was a synopsis of the incident. That is a police-involved shooting. As Commissioner Woods requested. The full body cam footage of that will be presented, and at that time, Michigan State Police or the Homicide Task Force is currently investigating, so I don't want to get into the weeds of that, but I believe that the questions that you have will be addressed both with the video footage release as well as the findings that is submitted to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office for that.
But what I'm asking now is the policy. What is the policy on pursuing a person and shooting them when they're not shooting at you, when they're retreating?
Through the chair, the fatal force policy is clear. I did not speak to all of the facts of that case, so please excuse the brevity or the synopsis of it, but I did not speak to the incident or the factors that caused the officer to make that decision. That is forthcoming, but I just shared an overview of the incident, Commissioner Bernard.
Okay, I look forward to the video, and I'll take a look at the use of force policy, because the person was no threat to the officer.
Commissioner Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, if someone wanted to get in contact with you directly, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Through the chair, I can provide an email address as well as my office. I will get that through the board secretary. If it is your pleasure, I will provide that
I
information.
appreciate that. What's going on at the 2nd Precinct? It seems like they don't have a continuity in leadership. They've changed leadership so many times in the past couple of years. The community is solid, but it seems like that command staff keeps changing. And I'm just curious as to why. It seems like they're changing. I just want to know.
Oh, thank you. Well, through the chair, one of the most constant things in the Detroit Police Department is change. Based on the needs of the city, there was some skill set or some talent that was recognized at the 2nd Precinct that the department needed in another place. We have identified a captain that was coming over there that's more than capable, that has a strong community ties, and we believe will certainly fit in with the 2nd Precinct. Our commitment to this body and to the community is that we will have an open house anytime there is a leadership change, so we will provide this board or this body with the date of the new captain that is now assigned to the 2nd Precinct.
And just 2 quick questions, Mr. Chairman.
Right ahead.
So what's the process for abandoned vehicles? Seems like you and I were given some bad information last week. They told you that the car was moved. It wasn't moved. You didn't say it went to the abandoned car task force, and now it's municipal parking. What's the process?
So through the chair, so there is a robust plan to address blight in our city, and it's being handled by multiple city agencies. For vehicles that are abandoned on public streets and in public right-of-ways, that could be an alley, that is being handled by municipal parking. For those that are on private property, on lots, in driveways, on fields, that is being handled by the Detroit Police Department. There are also other instances where we lean on GSD or DPW to assist. Perhaps there's an abandoned tractor trailer or the big trailer of that, a box trailer that we may need a crane or a backhoe or something to come, and we need to destroy or crush it right on the spot. So there are several different levels to addressing it. So depending on where the vehicle comes in, and there's still a bit of due process in this. So we may get an information that, hey, there's a car on the field here, come tow it. Well, we need to find out who that car belongs to and give the owner an opportunity to address it. There may be something that this car is somewhat of a family heirloom, or say it was their parents' car, something that they just don't want to part with or are working to fix it up. We will do our best to educate them. Hey, if you store a car here, it can't be on all flats. It needs to be not parked on the grass. It has to be on concrete. Perhaps it needs to go to the garage. So we still give, once we identify the owner of the car, provided it's not stolen, and we will identify the owner of that car as well. But from that, it's then a time period that's given, and then each of the agencies will go out and address it. There's the list. There are more cars than, there are quite a few cars that across the city that we are working through to address. So again, if it's while we may all receive that car or receive the information, we would pass it along to the other city agencies. So for an example, I got a phone call, thank you for forwarding it to me, where there was one car that was in an alley and one car that was in a field.
Has it been moved?
I will get back to you by the end of the, so the car in the field has been moved.
Okay.
The car in the alley has not, but I've got to call in to find out where that is in the process and hope to have an answer for you by the conclusion of this meeting.
And my final question
Go right ahead.
deals with Wayne State Police. I understand there was some activity with Detroit Police dealing with an encampment. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about, Chief?
I am, sir.
Okay. What activities did DPD play with Wayne State in removing the encampment, and do we have a memorandum of understanding with the Wayne State Police?
Thank you. Through the chair, so DPD was requested to be present. We were present during the actions taken by Wayne State Police. They made the decision, and I believe Chief Holt and the president have given a statement as to their reasoning as to why they broke up or removed the encampment from the university grounds, but DPD took no action in removing anyone, taking down any of the tents and everything. We were there, and it is both with the mutual aid, and we do have a MOU with Wayne State, but as it relates to any law enforcement agency, if Harper Woods or if Hamtramck or Highland Park or the Michigan State Police, if they are calling for police assistance, we will certainly honor their request. There was no need for us to engage, and we did not engage. Again, it was Wayne State that made that decision, and they took all the action, sir.
What unit from DPD went? Was it the mobile field force? Was it a special response team?
I need to find out, through the chair, I will find out exactly where those officers, what their command was. I believe it was our Metropolitan Division. I don't know the composition of who was deployed there, but our Metropolitan Division is who answered the call to Wayne State Police, but they were not active in the removal of the encampment.
Thank you.
Commissioner Banks.
Through the chair, blessings and to you and your household, Deputy Chief. What type, the 12-step program, is crime decreasing with that program? How's crime doing with that 12? You got the 12-step program. How's crime coming with that?
Thank you.
Is there a decrease in crime? And can you give me give this board a percentage if you can?
Yes, well, through the chair.
Or roundabout.
Well, through the chair, we talked of violent crime being down across the city last year, record low homicide, and we are certainly on that same cadence this year. As I shared with in my presentation earlier today, our total Part 1 violent crime, again, is down in double digits. We are at 11% total violent crime with 23% reductions in homicide, 22% reductions in non-fatal shootings, 29% reduction in robberies, 58% reductions in carjacking. So certainly we know we did not do this by ourselves. One of several times throughout the pillars of Chief White's plan is community involvement and engagement. So DPD with this community, as well as with our other stakeholders, United States Attorney Don Ice, Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy, and so many others are helping us collectively. This body, we appreciate the work that you do in encouraging sound decision-making and conflict resolution. Collectively, we are down 11%, and we will continue to do the work to keep that number reduced.
I got one more, Mr. Chair.
Go right ahead.
Also, this is not related to the Deputy Chief. I just want to mention this to the board. I saw a few things, and it was on my heart. I just want to mention this to the board. So we're not, if there's any board member that's doing this, we're not here to praise the chief or Detroit Police Department. We took an oath to stand for justice. That's what we took, an oath to stand for justice. We're not here to praise the Detroit Police Department, so we took an oath to stand for justice. So I just wanted to get that out there.
Okay, any further questions, Commissioner Burton?
Through the chair, I have some concerns about District 5. A few different things. Residents of Lafayette Park talks about people are camping out in the park. Needles and syringes and stuff are in the park near trees when people are out walking their dogs. This is what residents in Lafayette Park is bringing to my attention. Also, Madugal in Larned, there is like a wiring hanging in the center there on Larned, right on McDougal, but right at Larned. Some wiring down. I actually have some pictures of that in my phone that I would like to share. Like for the department to get someone to look into that. Also, another concern is Wayne State, which is also part of the 5th District. Given that the vice president of Wayne State University visited the encampment and denied feeling unsafe, and what specific safety threats justified the violent suppression of the encampment protests by DPD and the Wayne State Police Department. So that was another concern from residents of my district, which is District 5.
Okay. I have a couple of questions here. I guess I have one question and then one response. At our last community meeting, one of the residents of Detroit shared that the data that we share is not easily digestible. When we provide the percentages, it isn't calculating in their mind what that actually means. And so just as a matter of recommendation, it might be better to just give the total number of the decrease. So as opposed to saying decrease by 11%, saying this was less than whatever that number might be, so that our residents are better understanding the report, because again, it would suggest to us that the percentages are a bit confusing to our citizens. But my question is regarding the pop-up block parties. When DPD engages these block parties, is DPD's intentions to shut them down or to keep them safe?
Mr. Chair, twofold, and it depends. If a block party has gone through the proper protocols, then we would work with them to certainly keep it safe. If a block party asks for a Evolve, we will bring them out. If they need traffic control devices as it relates to barricades, to make sure if they are out in the street, and again, everything has been signed off on the neighbors in the neighborhood, we will certainly help. But for the others where we're getting calls for loud music, when the streets are blocked, people can't get home, gunfire in the air, again, music working outside of what the provision is for amplified devices, then at that point where it's becoming a nuisance, then we would go to shut down. So it's a case-by-case scenario. Currently, we are working on a block party ordinance, again, just to set a tone that if you are hosting one of the event, there's some responsibilities for those that want to have it. And what that looks like. So more to come, but again, it's a case-by-case scenario. Those that have applied to have that, we will certainly help and do our efforts to make it safe, but when it's spilled over and become a problem event, we will move to shut it down, sir.
And I know this is probably very difficult to do, particularly for the ones that are spontaneously aggregated. But is there any effort that when you do see a block party that is not officially sanctioned, if you will, that there's some information shared with those individuals about how they can go about doing it appropriately?
Thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Chief White, and everything we do, the opportunity to educate before we enforce, that is our strategy. So to let them know, and it may be, hey, we got a complaint, you're having a block party, but it's in your field next to your lot. Just turn the music down. The music's too loud. We can hear it from 2 blocks away. So every single time we share with them that the noise ordinance from an amplified device, you can't be heard over 75 feet. So it's a case-by-case scenario, but any opportunity we get to educate, we certainly take advantage of that.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments, Commissioner Bernard?
Quickly, I hope when we do that these are patrol officers, obviously, within that district, or perhaps community policing officers. They're very courteous to people, because when people are having a good time and the police come, it sort of puts a damper on it. But if the police are very courteous and just say, well, this, you can't do this, you can't do, but as opposed to, the heavy hand versus the polite and more courteous hand. But that's not my question. My question relates to the people who we arrest, and of course they're in the Detroit Detention Center. When is the jail opening, and are we closing the detention center, or what are we doing? Because I thought actually the jail was supposed to be open already. The sheriff's office already has a for sale sign on it on Woodward. And so all of our people are still going, of course, to the detention center. But what's the plan, if you don't mind sharing with our community and the board?
Through the chair, I do not have the timeline as it relates to the jail. The new jail versus the old in the sheriff's office, that is Wayne County. So I don't know where they are in the pipeline or in the project of transitioning from the new jail to the old jail. I don't have that information, Commissioner Bernard.
But we're going to continue with our detention center, which is
Through the chair, so as you know, with the consent judgment, DPD is not in the business of housing prisoners. So we currently have a partnership with the state, which is the DDC. I'm not sure, we are working to a partnership possibly with Wayne County. We're still in the exploratory phases. So we are seeing what's in the best interest. Is it with our current partnership with the state or is it possibly with the county? That is still in conversations right now. So when a resolute plan is devised, we will certainly update this body on that.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Thank you,
Commissioner
Mr. Chair.
Burton, welcome.
Thank you. Question for the chief. As I talked to our office, our office still has officers that's not wearing body-worn cameras. And so what does your office plan to do to ensure that officers are wearing body-worn cameras? And keeping them on. The body-worn camera is there to not only protect residents and keep them safe, but it's also there to protect the officer as well and keep them safe. So what are your office are looking to do or do differently? Because we do have policies and in place, and so that's my question.
So through the chair, that is a policy that we have extreme accountability on. So once we find out a member is not wearing a body camera, there is swift, progressive corrective action that's taken. It's not optional. And for those that do not adhere to the rules and regulations of this agency, again, through discipline or corrective action, and if it continues to occur, we're going to help them with the career decision.
All right, thank you. And my comment is to the community around around citizen complaint reports. Oftentimes, and again, much of this, we as a board take some culpability in the sense that we have not been as efficient as we could have been in closing cases in a reasonable amount of time. We acknowledge that, and we're working to improve that. But my statement is more so to citizens being responsive to our investigators when they call, because oftentimes what ends up happening in a lot of these CCRs, these cases are being closed as inconclusive. And they're being closed as inconclusive because when investigators are attempting to reach out to citizens to get more information or details, they aren't able to contact the person who made the complaint. And so when they aren't able to contact the person who made the complaint, they have to just go on the very sometimes minor information that they have, and oftentimes, again, those cases are being closed as inconclusive. Now, that is not to suggest that what they complained didn't happen, but it means that our investigators just don't have enough information to sustain, and oftentimes that, again, is a disadvantage for our community, because if there was actually something that occurred where that issue could have been sustained, we're unable to do so. So, again, if you're making a complaint, and I recognize it is a bit unfair to put the burden on someone who has had a negative encounter with police to engage in this level of effort, but we really do need your help and assistance in that regard. So again, we can ensure that thorough investigations are being done, and in the cases where these incidences are sustained, we can therefore do so. And so I'm saying that because there's been a number of cases that I've had to sign off on that have been closed as inconclusive, and many of them have been a result of not being able to get in contact with the original complainant. So please, if you all can share that word, that would be helpful for us, our Office of OCI, but also as well as making our police department accountable and responsible to how it treats our citizens. With that, thank you all for your questions and comments. Thank you so very much, DC Hayes, for your presentation. Commissioner
One quick one. Through the chair, DC Hayes, what category usage is that in when an officer is not wearing a body-worn camera? What's the category usage? What's the penalty for it? Is there a penalty for it? I mean, there is a penalty for it, but what is the penalty? I'm sure there's a penalty, but what is the penalty?
Thank you.
I'm asking.
Through the chair, it starts with a reprimand. Can I be heard?
Go ahead.
It starts with a written reprimand, but it will progress into suspension. And again, a pattern of noncompliance and willful noncompliance, we can escalate that and also work through a termination process if it's a continued pattern of non-body cam usage.
Thank you. I'm all set, Mr.
All right, thank you. All right, now we'll move on to oral communications. So who do we have?
Mr. Chair, we have 6 speakers. First, Ms. Rella Landfair, Minister Eric Blunt, Ms. Bernice Smith. In that order, please.
Okay.
Hello,
Hello.
I am Rella Landfair. I would like to be announced as Michael's mother yet again. So, first and foremost, I want to say I know no one wants to hear that they're not doing their job effectively or efficiently, but somewhere along the way, the ball has gotten lost. And my son's case has been lost up in that. This is literally my 4th time down here. I came down here last week. I was really handled inappropriately and kind of brushed off and pushed away, and I didn't appreciate that. That's first and foremost. I am a constituent and I have been totally open, transparent, and here coming to you guys for y'all assistance. When I came here the first time, when my son announced that my son was missing and that I was the one who found my son. So now that means I came and made a report for a missing persons report. No one helped me find my child. I found my child. Now when I find my child, I'm coming here looking for answers and I'm still getting the runarounds. I was told by the board as well as, I was told by Chief White, I believe it was March 28th, somewhere up in there, that he was so eager to have a meeting with me and he wanted to provide total transparency about my son's case and let me know all of the details. And you guys even said that, hey, you guys wanted to know of the findings. Well, did you guys find out anything? Because no one contacted me. I was supposed to meet with Chief White on April 3rd, but I had a previous out-of-town engagement scheduled. I called him and said, hey, I forgot prior to, of course, my son passing. That whole trip went out of my head. Let's reschedule this. I never got a call back. What happened was I got a call back from Lieutenant Timothy Jones about 2 or 3 times. I got a call back from a captain, I believe her name was Maddox, something of that sort. She said she was going to call me the next day. I never got a call back from her. I got a call from Commander Severy and telling me, hey, well, I know Chiefs is really want to get with this meeting, but the NFL draft is here, so pretty much you pushed me off again to the side. So now I have to come last week just to find out that my son's case has been transferred. And I want to know from you guys, what is it that y'all supposed to do? Because according to this says that the Board of Police Commissioners has supervisory control and oversight of the police department as set forth in this chapter. So some point and somewhere, this is not cool. I shouldn't have to keep coming down here every week to get some answers to find out what's going on with my son's case.
Okay. First of all, I'm sorry for that, but thank you for your comments. That is your time. DC Hayes, did you want to respond?
Yes, through the chair, and ma'am, certainly, Ms. Landfair, I believe you asked to be referred to as Michael's mom. My understanding is that Commander Severy, who is in charge of homicide, reached out to connect with you and spoke to you regarding your son's case.
What date? Do you have a date for that?
I do not.
Okay.
However, I will take ownership in ensuring that communication happens. There is a new captain over our homicide division now, Commander Rebecca McKay. I will task Officer Tice, if you can, who's just standing right behind you to your right, if you can get that information, I will coordinate a meeting to ensure that you are updated as to your son's case and the findings.
Okay, so can I
And to her point, excuse me, your time is an expense, but to your point, to her point rather, what is a reasonable amount of time that we can expect feedback on that?
Mr. Chair, I can get that to you. As far as the case findings,
No, I mean when she has actually had an opportunity to have a sit down with DPD and receive that information. What's a reasonable time that the board can expect to have feedback on that?
through the chair, we will provide you the update immediately after that meeting happens.
Yeah, I'm trying to get. And I see what you're trying to do.
Sorry,
Maybe you don't see what I'm trying to do.
I'm very sorry.
Should we say 2 weeks, a month?
Mr. Chair, give us 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I just have one quick question for him. So
I'm sorry, you have to ask that question to the gentleman that he asked you to speak with, and then we'll get that clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Woods.
It's my understanding that Officer Ty has been very, very responsive in this situation. I think he has responded every time. And, our role is not to investigate criminal cases, and so there's been a proper handoff, and there's been a lot of communication regarding this matter. And so it's not like it's being ignored. Every time Officer Tyus has been consistently, adhering to or, addressing her concerns to the best of his ability. So I have watched that and I've kept up with that situation.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker?
Through the chair.
Yes, Commissioner Burton.
Before you get to the next speaker, I want to say, Chief, thank you for looking into this case here. The young lady has been coming to the board meeting, and she's asking for closure, and I think that the board as well as the department should help her get closer to receiving closure. And I hope that she's able to talk with the captain or whoever you recommend, soon, because this is a grieving mother here. She's in pain.
That's right.
She could use some help right now, as far as closure from the department as well as closure from this board, and so if you can schedule that meeting for her so she can get the closure she wants, I'm sure this board and would definitely appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. It has been stated we should expect something back in 2 weeks, and so we will indeed do that. As a matter of fact, Mr. Brown, if you can make a notation to remind us 2 weeks from now to make sure we've gotten some feedback on the status of this case. Yes, Commissioner Woods.
Yeah, I don't want it to be lost. That even Commander Savory did address this issue. We don't have a magical wand in these cases. That these are very sensitive issues, and that we're not going to play with the emotions of citizens. These are very serious situations. People are grieving, people are hurting. We definitely care about her concerns, and we want them to be addressed vigorously. But cases are cases, and people are not ignoring it because we have been following up on it. Absolutely, unequivocally. These are very sensitive issues, and we should never, ever play on the emotions of the community.
To the chair.
I think that we've exhausted that issue. I think we have some action items, and then if in 2 weeks those action items aren't followed up on, then we can open up for further discussion.
5 seconds.
I don't think that we should extend this any further. Go right ahead.
Good afternoon, Board.
Good afternoon.
I am Minister Eric Blunt from Sacred Heart Catholic Church right here in Detroit. Chairperson Presley, I've got to acknowledge one small step in the right direction that you have performed recently. At the last community meeting at the 8th Precinct, you were bold enough to ask the 8th Precinct why their citizen complaint numbers were higher than any other precinct. It was one small step in the right direction, but I want to give it to you. Their response was troublesome. On the other side, you have chastised me for using strong language in describing some of the commissioner's behavior. But when that same commissioner used strong language against me, you threw up your hands and said, hey, freedom of speech. They can say whatever they want to the public. I don't think so. And while we're on the subject, Commissioner Bernard, it is not your appearance. It is your behavior. It is your actions that cause me to be horrified and to remind everyone exactly what you said, when you said it, and where to find it if they need it, whether they are the Inspector General or the Auditor General. Ron Scott convinced me to come to these meetings over 10 years ago. And he said, you won't believe it until you see it with your own eyes. And that's why I cannot stop. It doesn't matter what. And here again, the agenda says nothing about the HR report that has been delayed, 2 weeks now. And HR can go a long way in solving or at least addressing some of the issues, like the risk management system. How do officers get on it? Is it their continual use of or non-use of body-worn cameras? Who really knows? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
There's so
And
much
happy
that I can
belated
say.
birthday to you.
Well, thank you very much. It's a good Lord's blessing for me to see 92. I don't think I'm going to have enough time to tell you all what I want to tell you. Number one, I got notes down here. When are we going to stop letting your Commissioner Burton disrespect Commissioner Smith? Every time you leave, whenever she has the floor to do the things that she has to do, he interrupts her and he's disrespectful for her. Being a woman myself and raised by a mother who did not tolerate no disrespect out of any of her children, I'm still maintaining my feelings as far as respecting the women. Now, what you do is your business, but I demand he stop disrespecting her every time she chairs the meeting when you leave. The next thing is the racing in the neighborhood. My son and daughter live on West Grand Boulevard. I raised them there in a beautiful home, four stories. It's a rag now. It's terrible. Every time I go by there to go to my son's house down the street at 1390, it's horrible. The home that we formerly had. My daughter is in the next block. She's at 1440. Well, anyway, I don't need to tell her the address.
Please.
Anyway, we have a young man in our neighborhood who thinks he's good enough to sell drugs. I have reported it to the drug people. I haven't heard any results, but I'm going to still work on it because my children live in that neighborhood, all right? And they have beautiful homes. The grass is cut constantly, so I don't have to worry about them being disrespectful to their homes. The next thing I want to talk about is you're going to come to my church tomorrow. Thank the Lord. Tabernacle is going to be very, very happy to have you in their presence. The next thing I want to do,
Quickly.
I got time.
You don't.
Well, thank you anyway. I'm glad to be here another year, and the Lord is very, very, very favorable to me, and I'm very glad. And you need to tell your commissioner, stop walking out when we have prayers.
Through the chair.
Thank you.
Real quick, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Burton.
I feel that we should stand additional time to each person that comes to the meeting, to come to the podium. Minister Blunt, I'm sure, had a few additional words that he would have liked to raise, but his time would cut off after the 2-minute mark. I think if we're going to be transparent and fair, we need to be fair to all of our residents that come before the podium. I also want to say point of order to Bernice Smith on the allegations she made. We as a board, as a voting body, as a board, we all have to follow Robert Rules of Order, including myself as a board member and any other board member here. Some commissioners understand Robert's Rules of Order a little bit clearer than others, but no one is disrespecting anyone here. But
All right.
as far as Robert's Rules of
best,
Order,
so please
that's
do your
what
best to restrict your comments so we can hear what the commissioner is saying. Go right ahead, Commissioner.
that's what our bylaws govern, that we follow Robert's Rules of Order. I also want to say quickly that this is the same Bernice Smith that assaulted me in a public
Commissioner
meeting.
Burton, I'm going to ask that you be respectful for citizens who come to the meeting.
Bernice Smith swung a cane at me and almost hit me in a Board of Police Commissioners meeting, along with Deputy Chief Todd Bettison, who sat at the far left of me at the time, along with Commissioner Durrell Brown out of District 1. The former commissioners, the three of us, when she swung a cane, it almost hit the three of us, but she was swinging for me.
Okay,
so this is
Commissioner
the
Burton, you are
Bernice Smith, who has a reputation,
Commissioner Burton,
swinging canes.
you're being counterproductive to your desires. You are taking away from the citizens' ability to be able to communicate. You keep asking for them to have more time, and more time could possibly be had if you use less time. Thank you. Our next public commenter.
Our next speaker is Lieutenant Mark Young, and then we'll go into Zoom with Marguerite Maddox, and last three numbers 534.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I noticed a pattern recently that is disturbing in the investigations of the members of the Detroit Police Department. When it says non-sustained, this should be exonerated. It's not fair to the members of the department.
No.
Non-sustained, exonerated. That's a clearer definition. The other comment that I want to make is this. I heard something very disturbing, that you're not here to support the men and women of the Detroit Police Department. That's exactly what you're here for. That's exactly what you're here for. When we wrong, hold us accountable. But when we right, you hold us righteous. The very rhetoric that comes from boards and meetings like this is why you have protests. That's not your function. Your function is simple. I'm not trying to be disrespectful today. I'm here as a union leader and a law enforcement officer that holds due process. I don't tell you how to make your decisions. I say due process. And due process is important for a couple reasons. Because the Detroit River on the surface looks calm. It's the undercurrent that's different. When you let it all play out, there's times that this board have made a decision to suspend without pay, and the findings was far different in the end game. All I ask is due process. I'm not here to disrespect you. It's far from the truth. I represent people that give their lives and risk their lives, that work doubles every day, that face people out here with guns, that have been separated from their families long periods of times. Yes, people think because they're compensated. It wears on them. It wears on me. I know. All I ask is due process and fairness. When you say that you're not here to champion the men and women of the Detroit Police Department, take them gold badges off. And you need to find something else. I'm not here to support wrongdoing. I'm here to make sure we all get it right.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair. Can I comment on that?
Well,
for a minute?
Go right ahead, Commissioner Banks.
To Lieutenant Mark Young. Now, what I said, we're not here to praise DPD. We're not here to praise DPD. The Bible says praise no man. No man. That's biblical. That's scripture. Those are biblical principles. So we all took an oath to stand for justice on this board here. Now, if officers are doing well, you got some great officers out there. They doing a good job. Hey, we pat them on the back. I'm going to pat them on the back. I'm going to show them love. I love Chief White and other officers. But if they wrong, I'm not standing with them. So, hey, I just want to get that out there.
To the chair.
Commissioner Burton.
We often hear from the union president, Mark Young, comes before the board every week. I don't think he have missed a week. It'd be nice if the board can add him to an agenda where he able to get more time than 2 minutes. I think when we have the union here represent, whether it's DPOA or Sergeants and Lieutenants Union, I think as a board, we should allow them, time on the agenda, to give a monthly, quarterly report or something of that nature. Be good if we can do that for a change. But also, it's good that we can hear from more community stakeholders that comes to our meetings each and every week, like Minister Eric Blunt, who's a community leader here in the city of Detroit. It'd be nice if we can also add him to an agenda where he can give a presentation before this board, because sometimes 2 minutes is just not nearly enough when you have individuals that's coming here that has a lot of concerns.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Burton. Our next speaker,
Ms. Maddox?
Can I comment?
Commissioner Bernard.
Just quickly, I understand, Mr. Young, about your concerns about due process by the board, particularly with respect to due process issues. And actually, I agree with you. When other bodies have examined something with more than 30 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is we spend when we're examining something and have come up with legal conclusions that contradict what is presented to us, that it's better that if we would address those conclusions, because because the officers then have had due process. And I think it's better if we follow that lead versus our 10-minute examination and decision. Thank you for bringing that up.
Our next speaker.
Ms. Maddox?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I was listening to this whole process, and my understanding is that each and every one of these commissioners need to give the public a little more time. Besides myself, to get our point across. Yes, it takes me a lot longer to get my words out clearly. But I would like to make a suggestion.
Go right ahead.
For the next meeting, or the following meeting, again, the two people who are community leaders for more time and to do a presentation like Mr. Burton said, and this may clear up some of the issues that we all have this time. And to get my other issues is the scooters. This past week, I came across 3 young men zigzagging on the sidewalk in my area. I live in District 5. And the area is Woodward, 2nd Avenue, 3rd Avenue, Avenue and Platoon in Milwaukee. There were 3 young men speeding through that area and almost knocked me over. I used a walker and I sat there next to me. And about what happened to the 11-year-old young boy, where his uncle tased him. That particular officer should have been fired the day after he did that. Now his nephew will be scarred for life in fear of the police officer. Now, I would pray for everyone, especially the police officers who are trying to communicate with us as a community in the city of Detroit. We need to be more kindly and more respectful with everyone. I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And to be clear, DC Hayes did make notation of the streets where you were saying there were some difficulty with those who are on scooters. All right, go right ahead. Next speaker.
Yes.
The next speaker is the caller with the last number 534, and after that, it'll be the caller with the next with the last number 124, and then former Commissioner William Davis, and then that's it.
Thank you. Caller with the last 3 numbers 534.
Yes, good afternoon. May I be heard?
Yes, you can. Go right ahead.
Thank you. I was also 124. It came in on 2 numbers to try and be sure I could get called on, so thank you for calling on me. Yeah, I agree with Ms. Marguerite Maddox, the issue of communication. I mean, so much stuff that when things go wrong, a lot of time it has to do with the lack of communication, and we should be more kind and respectful to everyone. I'm going to jump down to my last point. My suggestion would be that we look into trauma-informed policing. And not only the trauma that so many individuals are experiencing, have been experiencing, and so they may not present well, but police officers go through trauma too, and overload of societal problems, etc. So hopefully we can look at that and keep all of that in mind. Now, I'd like to give a shout out to NPOs Harris Hardy and Shanita Moore. They get rapid response rewards from me. I have been trying to get an NPO officer to call me for the longest, but I went into the 3rd precinct, not particularly happy how that went, but I got a list of the NPO officers, reached out to them about neighborhood concern about an arsonist who got a really light sentence. And we got word that he's on warrant status, which means tether cut off, very likely, and he's been seen in the neighborhood violating a stay-away order. So my tremendous appreciation for that rapid response and communication, and I had more than 2 minutes to explain what was going on so that we can get special attention in the area. And please reach out to DeWin, because a little bit of time at Team Wellness did not do it. Please, that's serious. That is way more serious than cars parked even in a fence yard, and they're like staffing people for $250 tickets. And I don't understand. They're doing that to my neighbor, but it seems intentional, like to blight him out because people want his property. Yet city mowers are mowing over the garbage all the time. And some mowers lied about me to the police. 2 officers came out, Patterson and Abrams.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 124.
That was her.
I thought that was 534.
She came in on 2 devices.
I got you. All right. So last speaker is former Commissioner William Davis.
Good afternoon. Can I be heard?
Yes, you can. Go right ahead.
Okay, I'd like to start off by saying, as I said before, I think this board needs to be working with the department and the administration, city council, to do more proactively to reduce the vast number of lawsuits. As you may or may not know, I wear many hats. One of them is president of Detroit Active Retired Employee Association. You know, the city of Detroit, especially the police department, have a tremendous amount of lawsuits that, you know, we need to cut back on these lawsuits. We need to be doing more to make sure that, especially in these lawsuits where you have individuals that's violating policies, violating the law, violating, you know, all sorts of stuff. But, you know, we're still representing them, we're still defending them and what have you. You know, we need to reduce the number of lawsuits. Also, this board needs to be doing more to make recommendations to help to encourage more police officers to live inside the city of Detroit. As you may or may not know, the vast majority of the police officers do not live inside the city of Detroit. Even a higher percentage of the command officers, you know, from captain on up, do not live inside the city of Detroit. That is a problem, and it's a growing problem, becoming worse and worse every day. As you look at incentives to make people want to, you know, to encourage them to live inside the city, you should also be looking at how much does it cost the department for city vehicles to continuously go to residents, you know, to city, you know, to officers' residents that's outside the city of Detroit. You know, they, you know, like say, if you have a city vehicle, it should not be leaving the city of Detroit. You should not be doing errands and doing all sorts of stuff that the Attorney General just, you know, has somebody detained for doing that and arrested and suing them. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that's all of our public commenters.
Yes, sir.
Again, and we thank everybody for their public comment. Let me say this. There is a very delicate balance that I'm attempting to adhere to. While I very much so hear the pleas and requests for more time in public comment, there is a thing called chair's discretion, and I try my best to at least give every speaker an additional 10 seconds just to complete their sentence, and then if I feel they might be passionate, I try to give a little bit more. So I'm attempting to do that while balancing the other thing that I've heard you all say, which is that these meetings are too long, okay? So I'm almost in between a rock and a hard place, so I'm trying my very best. So again, I want you all to know I do attempt through the chair's discretion to provide all of our citizens an opportunity to at least get their thoughts out. But again, not to have this meeting to go on for 5 hours and 6 hours. There is a certain limitation that we have to place. And so for that, I do apologize. Okay, now we will move on to unfinished business. And under unfinished business, there are 2 policy recommendations that was presented to us and from our policy committee. That memorandum was dated May 14th, 2024. However, we did not act on the 2 policy items that was mentioned in that memo. Okay, and so with that, under tab 8, behind tab 8 rather, you should see both of those policies present, and that again is policy 307.5, the facial recognition policy, and policy 203.11, the eyewitness identification and lineup policy. And so by recommendation again of the policy committee, the chair now entertains a motion. Well, I guess that is the motion that doesn't require a second. And so there is open discussion for the policy 307.5 of the facial recognition policy. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner Bernard.
I'd just simply like to note that both policies have been thoroughly reviewed and examined by the policy committee, which includes obviously Commissioner Burton and obviously Commissioner Woods, along with the ACLU and Wayne State University Law School participants and the University of Michigan participants. So I'd move the board to approve the policies. I think that they are constitutionally correct. So I would move their adoption and approval.
Sorry, Commissioner Moore. Well, it's not required.
it's committee.
It comes out of committee. Yep. So Commissioner
Thank you,
Moore.
Mr. Chair. So this is my concern about the facial recognition policy. On August 10th, 2023, we had a very robust discussion with the chief. That meeting is online so people can see exactly what I'm talking about as it relates to facial recognition. The chief promised this board in 45 days, he said Commander McGinnis would do an investigation surrounding the Portia Woodruff, am I pronouncing her name correctly, investigation. We never received that report. We followed up via email a couple times, crickets. We didn't hear anything, it was just brushed off. So I'm very concerned, and I know that all the major bites that came through, Commissioner Woods has emphasized that, Commissioner Bernard, and I appreciate the work of that because I know it is a good policy. But I'm talking about the substance as it relates to August 10th, 2023, where there was an investigation where a young lady was arrested, and we never got a follow-up for that. And I know I was advised that there were other issues similar to that one, and I was waiting to hear that. I still haven't heard either way what happened with that investigation. So just my concerns.
Maybe
Commissioner Woods.
Hayes, tell us
No,
what
Commissioner
happened.
Woods.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have asked that Deputy Chief Hayes address that concern. But again, this policy is a historical policy for the city of Detroit. Is one of the strongest policies in the country. You had a renowned experts at the table from the University of Michigan Law School, their civil rights class, or the civil rights portion of the University of Michigan Law School, in which Michael Steinberg have litigated in the United States Supreme Court. He's the former legal director of the ACLU, as well as the one who represented Mr. Williams. And Mr. Williams had strong say-so and sat at the table concerning this policy. So I think this is a very strong policy, both policies. And so I strongly support it.
All right. Any further discussion?
Through the chair,
Commissioner Burton.
can we table this until next week?
There's no second for that, so there's no motion. Any further discussion? All right, it has been requested that D.C. Hayes responds to Commissioner Moore's question relative to the promised update around the incident, we should say August the 20th, 2023.
Through the chair, through August 10th, 2023 was the actual board meeting.
Mm-hmm.
The incident occurred in February, and the chief didn't find out about it until August when the lawsuit was filed in regards to the particular situation. Last we heard, the young officer, investigator was placed on a leave after I asked, and that's the last thing this board heard from that. We followed up through via email. I know I saw a couple of them I was looking at. Since this policy has come up, crickets, haven't heard anything.
So do you have any update?
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through the chair. This was my first notice that there is an outstanding report due to this body. If you can give me 1 week time, in that week we will provide you at least with an update as to where or why that wasn't provided to you. And I am confident within 2 weeks' time, we can get that information in totality to this body.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, now the chair again entertain the motion before the board by recommendation of the policy committee is the approval of the facial recognition policy 307.5. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those who oppose, no.
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 All right, the ayes have it. That motion passes. Next is the policy, again, coming out of the policy committee, 203.11, the eyewitness identification and lineup. Again, this policy having been approved by the policy committee does not require a second, and so the chair opens up the floor for any discussion. Hearing no discussion, again, the motion before the board is to approve the eyewitness identification and lineup policy 203.11. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those who oppose, no. All right, the ayes have it. That motion passes. Now we'll move on to new business.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're so welcome. Moving to new business where we have a special personnel and training memorandum, and that will be provided to us by Commissioner Woods.
On behalf of the Board of Police Commissioners, Special Personnel and Training Committee, please see the key updates from the committee meeting held on May 24th.
Can you pull your mic down? Having a hard time.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Want me to start over?
You can start from where you are.
All right. Committee meeting held on May 24, 2024. Board attendees, Commissioner Darrell Woods, Commissioner Tamara Liberty Smith, Lisa Carter, and Commissioner Linda Bernard. Executive Manager Policy position, 8 candidates were invited to interview. Out of the seven candidates invited for interviews, each attended, or the 8 candidates invited for interviews, each attended and actively participated in the process. Following careful consideration, Dorian Tyus was chosen to proceed further in the interview process. The duration of each interview ranged between 20 to 25 minutes each and consisted of the following components: introductions, instructions, and overview of the position. Interview questions, Commissioner Woods, Smith, Carter, and Bernard asked the candidates the standard 6 questions. After thorough review of responses and evaluation of qualifications, the Special Personnel and Training Committee made the decision to advance Dorian Tyus. This recommendation will be presented in the full board for consideration.
Thank you. And so again, by recommendation of the Special Personnel and Training Committee, it has been motioned that we move Dorian Tyus, excuse me. It's not moving him. We're actually accepting him in this position. Okay, so that we accept Dorian Tyus as the executive manager of policy. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Burton.
Discussion. I sent an email out to commissioners yesterday. In past practices for executive management positions, the board have always had 3 names to come before the full board for a final. And that's, doesn't seem to be the case here. But that has been the case in past practices, especially with the board secretary's positions, the board attorney positions, all executive positions. The full board have, in some way, have had 3 names to come before the full board, so they can come before the board, and the board makes a decision. To have 1 name come from committee to the full board, we have to be very clear and careful of any form of nepotism and favoritism, because this board has been down this path before. It has been sued, and we still have lawsuits. That happens to be a cloud over the board even right now. And so I like to amend the motion by having 3 names to come before the full board in past practice.
Hearing no second, there is no motion. Commissioner Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick clarification, Mr. Chairman, as it relates to the committee. 8 candidates were interviewed or 7? Because I'm just reading 2 different things.
We 8 was invited and 7 interviewed.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bernard.
Just quickly, I just want the board to be comfortable with the recommendations of the committee. This is an all-day process. We're there from 9 in the morning till like 4 in the afternoon. Commissioner Woods bought lunch for everybody because we worked through the entire afternoon. I just want to say to the board, about 4 of the candidates were outstanding. One of them was a person that many of the people in this room know, and that's former House of Representatives member Carrie Gay Denego.
Sherry Gay Denego.
Sherry, not Carrie. I know, Sherry. She's actually up in Mackinac today. She was spectacular, but we weren't able to choose her because she has a contract that is going to start virtually immediately in Ohio, and she couldn't give us the time that it would take to onboard and do this position. The other candidates, Mr. Chairman, were equally, several of them were equally impressive. This candidate is one, as you know, I chair the policy committee of the board. There's another candidate that I found to be equally exceptional, and that was Mr. Nixon, who has participated with the policy committee in terms of writing policy, doing all kinds of stuff. But the consensus of the board was
the committee.
This gentleman, the committee of the board of the committee, was this gentleman, principally because he is a graduate of University of Michigan, and he went to Howard University Law School. So he is licensed as a lawyer in Michigan, and they felt that his academic credentials were superior, and that was why he was chosen by the committee.
Commissioner Hernandez.
Thank you, through the chair. I just very quickly want to second and really uplift the background coverage that Commissioner Bernard just provided, which has been provided to this full board previously, so that none of this is new information. Second to that, just uplift Commissioner Darrell Woods, who has taken on the lead in hiring not only investigators, previous to hiring, sourcing, interviewing, and ultimately presenting to this body hirees that are now being onboarded, and he's just done a phenomenal job. So just want to uplift the work.
Yeah, kudos to that.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Burton.
I want our listening audience here today to know that in past practices for executive manager positions, there has always been 3 names that come before the full board for a runoff. We don't know why this is not happening today, nor have we got a memo or anything saying that this process is going to change or the process is changing. So it comes off very alarming that certain names are being cherry picked and being brought, as one name. Once again, these are executive management positions that pay 6 figures. So, if you are duly elected, and you represent a district, it really takes away from democracy when one name is being selected and brought before the full board. Democracy is when you have more than one name come before the full board, where commissioners by district, as well as the mayoral appointees, can all weigh in on who will be a good service and a good fit for this organization. In that case, we don't really know. If we starting to hear that we had many good candidates, well, let's bring those candidates before the board. If we really want to be transparent and really want to be open and really want to have a fair process,
Thank you, Commissioner Burton. To be clear,
point of order.
Forms of democracy also include what we call representative democracy, and we act as if the committees that are part of this board
the
are separate.
The committee is made up of mainly mayoral appointees.
Excuse me, Commissioner Burton. The committee is not a separate and apart body of the Board of Police Commissioners. It is a part of this body, and it would be helpful if you shared some level, and again, it is your right not to, but to share some level of trust in the work that your colleagues have done, and not always attempt to characterize it or contextualize it as somehow being untoward.
Point of order,
or
Mr. Chairman.
inappropriate.
I'd like to call for
particularly
a legal opinion, Mr.
Excuse me,
Chair.
Commissioner Burton, you have not been recognized. Excuse me, Commissioner Burton, you have not
I call
been.
for a legal opinion for the executive position.
Excuse me,
for the policy manager position.
Commissioner Burton.
By our attorney.
Commissioner
and I believe
Burton.
she's in a meeting
You have
on
not,
Zoom.
You have not been recognized. Lastly, I would suggest you are very competent and capable. And maybe if you were more proactive, you might be more effective
Point of
at what
order.
you're trying to do. So this matter was before this board for months, but yet we just received an email, as you admitted on record, yesterday. So again, if you could be more proactive, then maybe some of these concerns that you have could actually be included in the decisions that we're trying to make.
Point of order.
But
this
when not,
committee just
excuse me,
met.
Commissioner
Point of
Burton,
order.
you have not been
Point of order.
recognized. Excuse me, Commissioner Burton, you have not been recognized.
Point of order.
But when you have not done that, and then yet you discredit the work of your colleagues who
Point
have,
of order.
I find that to be
Point of order.
extremely unreasonable.
Point of order.
So your
I'm calling for a legal
commentary-
opinion, Mr.
Your
Chairman.
commentary has been noted, and we will move on. Commissioner Hernandez.
Calling for a legal opinion, Mr. Chairman. Want the record to reflect.
Commissioner Hernandez.
Thank you so much. Through the chair, really don't want to elongate this item again and discredit any of the great work that's happened, regardless of the posturing and rhetoric that is being offered, not accepted, but offered. I'll just remind the public, just for awareness, that and really for fact, more than just awareness, this process is consistent with city HR practice when it comes to appointments. This is, again, as I'll remind everyone, and Commissioner Darrell Woods knows this is an appointed position. It is an executive position. It's appointed, which means technically we don't even have to interview. And yet we, as a body, and specifically the Personnel and Training Committee, has set the standard of wanting to uplift the process beyond just a simple appointment to make sure that there is a fair and due process with these interviews. So I'll just remind the public, and you can check the track record, how consistent we've been. And really the reason as to why we're even going back, and I don't want to deviate, to board secretary is because this body was not satisfied after a thorough search. That's why we're going back, because we're not trying to institute nepotism or cherry picking as it's been suggested and offered. So again, we're doing our due diligence to make sure that we have qualified candidates who can support us in keeping DPD accountable.
And just again, so that I'm not accused of being intractable to Commissioner Burton's request, Mr. Brown, please let it be noted that he's asking that the attorney provide an opinion that has just been made clear by our Personnel and Training Committee Chair. Vice Chair Tamara Liberty Smith.
You know, I really, through the chair, I really don't say much, but we have spent countless hours here interviewing candidates, many that you all would know, who all were very, very impressive. And then afterwards we debrief. We have spent from 9 a.m. to almost 5 p.m. with taking a 15-minute break in between just to get ourselves some strength to eat and go back at it. I am very confident in the candidates that we have seen and very confident in the candidate that we have picked today that will serve to do the job that we have selected him to do.
Chair, last question here.
One second, please.
Mr. Chair, Attorney LaBelle is online. She has her hand raised.
Okay, Attorney LaBelle?
Hi, Commissioners. Chair, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Want clarification on the legal opinion that Commissioner Burton has requested?
To paraphrase his request on whether or not it is in line with HR policies to bring one individual for recommendation for hire as opposed to 3.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Commissioner Woods.
Absolutely. Service is the rent we pay for the space that we occupy. The fact of the matter is that we take our job very seriously. We're not into games or anything that's going to be able to exploit the citizens of the city of Detroit. We take it very, very seriously. We have been grossly behind in terms of some of our hiring process. And this team came together in a powerful way to say, hey, with the blessings of Commissioner Hernandez and definitely with the direction of our chairperson, Quantes Presley, to say, hey, let's get the job done. And I think the citizens of the city of Detroit should be very, very happy that we have filled every investigator position. We have filled administrative assistant positions, and now this is a policy position that is very, very vitally important to the direction of the Detroit Police Department. And so, having said that, I want to forget about thanking me, but thank the team for coming together and say, let's get the job done and let's represent the citizens of the city of Detroit and get them the best product that we possibly can.
Through the chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Bernard.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, I'm on that committee and I'm not a mayoral appointee. So it wasn't all appointees. The second misstatement that my colleague made was that the position pays $100,000 or more. It does not. It's substantially less than that, at least 20% or 30% almost less than that. Thirdly, I enjoy serving on the committee because, as I've said before, I'm the only person on the board who has hired hundreds of people and compensated them. And I've won 3 labor cases in the Michigan Supreme Court. So therefore, the board should feel comfortable with what the committee has done and obviously with my representation as a community member. Thank you.
Through the chair.
You.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Burton.
I want the audience to know that we have members on that committee that have not attended college, don't have any college background, education-wise, nor do they have any HR experience or things of that nature. This is an executive position. And for executive positions, we ought to have 3 names coming before the full board, as we had in past practices with the board secretary position and other positions. Executive positions, we have to have a runoff, and we have had that before. But right now, we have not gotten any memo saying anything was changing until now they come out of the committee with 1 name. Once again, we must be clear and from any form of nepotism and favoritism. This board has been down that road before, has been sued, and if you check and see how many lawsuits have this board have had in the last several years, you'll be very alarmed about some of these settlements of far as lawsuits, and so I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
If we have nothing to hide,
Mr. Chair,
nothing to prove, why not bring 3 names?
The motion.
Thank you. All right, so we have exhausted the conversation. Again, the motion before us is out of the Special Personnel and Training Committee to accept Dorian Tyus as the Executive Manager of Policy. Executive Manager of Policy contingent upon background checks and negotiations. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no.
No.
All right, the ayes have it. That motion
And
passes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
We are now still under new business, and we're going to go with the items that are listed here. And so now to the Citizens Complaint Committee memorandum, which will be given to us by Commissioner Banks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate that. On behalf of the Board of Police Commissioners, Citizens Complaint Committee, please see the key updates from the committee meeting held on May 21st, 2024. Board members, Committee Chairperson Cedric Banks, Commissioner Linda Bernard, attendee, Chief Investigator Jerome Warfield, Police Community Relations Coordinator Teresa Blossom, Acting Board Secretary Robert Brown, Administrative Assistant Candace Hayes. Guest speakers, public commenters, Wayne State Law Professor Rebecca Robichaud, Wayne State Law Fellow Molly Moaning, Graham Barton, Angela Cope, Michelle George. Report from Chief Investigator Chief Investigator Jerome Warfield provided the key update. 6 new investigators will start June the 3rd. Wonderful. Blessings, blessings. Thank you, Jesus. With the addition of new investigators, OCI will be fully staffed. 50 backlog cases have been closed by 3 investigators that started in January. OCI received several complaints from citizens stemming from the encounters with DPD during Cinco de Mayo festivities. Those complaints are currently being investigated. Chief Investigator is visiting the Atlanta Citizens Review Board to discuss best practices and efficiencies that they currently have in place, as well as best practices OCI in place. Report on final summary on procedural justice. Wayne State Law Professor Rebecca Robichaud and fellow Molly Moaning provided the following key points on procedural justice. Procedural justice focus on the way police interact with the community and how those interactions affect the public view of the police. How the public views these interactions affects citizens' willingness to obey the law and cooperate with police. When police are viewed as legitimate, the community is more willing to cooperate. Procedural justice matters because it is essential in developing good will between the community and police. The next Citizens Complaint Committee meeting will be June 18th, Tuesday at 5 p.m. And Mr. Chairman, we had a wonderful meeting. The meeting was wonderful with law professor Rebecca Robichaud and a student Molly Moaning. It was just wonderful. We had Michelle George out also. She's from National Action Network. It was a wonderful meeting. It was really wonderful. Just wanted to get that back to you. And Commissioner Bernard was there.
I want to concur with what the chairman just said about his committee. It's a great committee, very interactive, and even I learned a lot about procedural justice, and we're implementing that information. And the police department representatives were great. Deputy Chief Hayes, they really made a substantive contribution. It was a great meeting.
Thank you, and thank you for that report. Now we'll move to closed session, and so the chair entertains a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to Section 8A of the Open Meetings Act, MCL 15268A. The department's request for the board to consider administrative leave without pay, but with medical benefits for Police Officer Jared Shaw, badge 3091, assigned to the 11th Precinct.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved in second. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez.
Which I think is relevant, just as a reminder to the public who is in person and also online and has the visibility to see who walks out whenever we have critical items. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. All right, the ayes have it. That motion passes. We now enter into a 5-minute recess to set up the room. And again, I apologize. This is going to be that musical chairs. You're going to do this at least 4 times. So I apologize in advance. We have returned from closed session. Mr. Brown, roll call, please.
Chairperson Presley.
Here.
Vice Chairperson Smith.
Present.
Commissioner Bernard.
Present.
Commissioner Banks.
Present.
Commissioner Bell.
Present.
Commissioner Moore.
Present.
Commissioner Hernandez.
Present.
Commissioner Woods.
Present.
All right, we do indeed have a quorum. Is there a motion? Commissioner Hernandez.
Through the chair, I'll make a motion. As a point of clarification, are we doing individually or collectively? I know we were afforded the option.
I don't know how we can say that. Maybe you all can state that again on the record so that we're not violating closed session.
My request would be that you vote independently by each officer, but just no need to go back into closed and then come back into open.
As that has been an agreement with?
With the union, representation agrees with that.
Okay, thank you. All right, so
With that, I'll make a motion to accept the department's request for the board to consider administrative leave without pay but with medical benefits for police officer Jared Shaw, badge 3091, assigned to the 11th precinct.
is there a second?
Second.
Been properly moved in second. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Chairperson Presley.
No.
Vice Chairperson Smith.
Can you come back to me, please?
Go back there and do it. Commissioner Banks.
Yes.
Commissioner Bell.
Yes.
Commissioner Bernard.
No.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Woods.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
All right, with 6 yes votes and 2 no votes, that motion passes.
Through the chair,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to accept the department's request for the board to consider administrative leave without pay but with medical benefits for police officer Leanna Shaw, badge 3342, assigned to the 11th precinct.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been properly moved in second. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Bernard?
Commissioners, if you deprive both of these officers of their income, these children nor the officers will have any health insurance, and they will become homeless. It makes no sense for us to move on this matter prior to it being adjudicated, where all of the facts come out, all of the evidence comes out, and there's an independent analysis of what happened. We don't know. We do know that this is a family and that this is a serious matter. And that, in my view anyway, we should not take this action prior to there being a clear determination of all the facts and circumstances in this case. If you want this family's income to go to zero, then we take this action, because that's what's going to occur. You can make people into criminals just by the actions that we take. And let me suggest that that would not be a good idea when we have people that have special needs that we know about in this family, medically and otherwise. So I urge you to vote against this recommendation.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Bell?
Mr. Chairman, family status, income, et cetera, has no bearing on the facts of this matter. We are chartered mandate to deal with the issue that brought before us at this particular time. We are pretty much putting into play other issues that we have no control of. If that case, we would not indict any officer in Chico. They all have a family. We all have.
Say that.
But we understand that's a burden that you bear when you make your decision. Thank you.
Yep, and just to be clear, we're not indicting anyone, just to accept or deny the chief's recommendation. Any further discussion? I just want to make clear that with information that was provided, there was a hope that we might delay this, which was the reason for my no vote in our initial proceeding. But seeing that my colleagues are ready to move forward on this issue, if there's any further discussion, we can move to a roll call vote, please. Mr. Brown?
Chairperson Presley.
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Smith.
Yes.
Commissioner Bernard.
No.
Commissioner Banks.
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Bell.
Yes.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Woods.
Yes.
All right, with 7 yes votes and 1 no votes, that motion passes. The chair now entertains a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to Section 8A of the Open Meetings Act, MCL 268A, the department's request for the board to consider administrative leave without pay but with medical benefits for Lieutenant Brandon Cole, badge L280, assigned to the Metro Division.
So moved.
Support.
Been properly moved in second. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying
Aye.
Aye.
all those opposed, no. All right, the ayes have it. That motion passes. We'll take a 5-minute recess, 3-minute recess, so that we might set the room up for closed session.
Present.
Commissioner Bell,
Present.
Commissioner Burton,
Present.
Commissioner Moore,
Present.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Present.
Commissioner Woods.
All right, with that, we do indeed have a quorum. Is there a motion? Commissioner Hernandez?
Yes, there is. I'll make a motion to accept the department's request for the board to consider administrative leave without pay but with medical benefits for Lieutenant Brandon Cole, badge L280, assigned to the Metro Division.
All right, there has been a motion to accept the department's recommendation for administrative leave without pay but with medical benefits for Lieutenant Brandon Cole. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Is there any discussion? Hearing
The discussion only.
Commissioner Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for recognizing me. The discussion is simply that we've heard from.
Just to remind you
I
to be very
understand. I'm not
mindful.
gonna say anything. Let me
Okay,
say
thank
we've
you.
heard from the department, we've heard from the officer, and we've heard, obviously, from the union. And we have the memorandum before us that reflects comments about what is. I can't say that.
I would
Okay, won't say
advise
that.
against saying
I won't
that.
say
Thank you.
I won't say, okay. And I disagree with the position of my colleagues, and totally. This is not a major incident of any kind, as has been pointed out to us. So therefore, I can't support, I personally cannot support that recommendation of taking the salary of a 25-year veteran of the department for what could be reviewed as free speech issues. So I just wanted to make that point without talking about the particulars.
Excuse me, I'm going to ask that the public restrict their comments. With that, indeed, let the record reflect that Commissioner Woods has joined us. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, again, the motion before this body is to accept the department's recommendation for administrative leave without pay but with medical benefits for Lieutenant Brandon Cole.
To the chair.
All those,
I'd like to
Commissioner
call for
Burton?
a roll call vote.
Yeah, that was going to happen anyway. So with that, Mr. Brown, roll call vote.
Chairperson Presley,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Smith,
No.
Commissioner Bernard,
No.
Commissioner Bell,
Yes.
Commissioner Burton,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Woods.
Yes.
All right, with 6 yes votes and 2 no votes, that motion passes. The chair entertains a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
So
Is
moved.
there a second?
Second.
Been properly moved in second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you so very much for your patience.